Liberty is not a pill that makes men angels. What it does do is limit the extent to which evil can be expressed in the world.
All right. Welcome to the 157th episode of the World Blockchain Roundtable. Our hosts for today are Greg from Rivet, Satoshi Shawn, everyone's best friend, Lisa from the Mighty Lair, Litecoin Lisa, Lisa Mighty Davis, and I am for I am, as always. I'm for I'm, and I'm Joe, founder and architect of Dragon Chain. So a quick update real quick on the layer ownership tokens and governance for this show. This is the first DAO-based podcast. And we've been running for 157 weeks consecutively. What is that? Is that 3 years? That's more than 3 years, right?
Wow,
is
that's
that right?
cool.
Yeah, in fact, it's one episode more than 3 years, I think, right? There's that. Yeah,
I
think
missed
that's
our
right.
3-year anniversary episode. Like we didn't say anything about it.
Yeah. So we should take time to celebrate things like that, right? Either way,
absolutely.
Last week, 133 lot was created, and every topic contributor from last week would get 83 lot. And last week's themes were nominated by Lisa. Is that right? 83
Yes.
lot. You got 83 lot for that. That's excellent. And that was what? That was last week.
Scammers in a bull market.
That's right. Protecting yourself from scammers in a bull market. So that was really good. That was a really good one, I think.
It's a great episode.
Probably one of the more important things, especially at our stage of adoption in crypto.
Like given the phase we're at with the news cycle, it's actually, I think, prudent right now to do a requiem for all of the things that are the sins of our industry, so we can focus on the positives.
Yes.
We need to give them a a proper resting place so that we can stand over them and not worry about them while we make the argument as to why this is a great thing. Because
and it's also as you know, let's say I have no idea, but let's say a bull market comes, you have a lot of friends that get excited about it, and they might or might not come to you. It's one of those things that it's important to have a refresher on those so that you can make sure your friends are protected, right? Very important. So these tokens come with the passive income, free edits, and governance votes in the layer, which is the most important thing. Speaking of which, there is a governance vote that is out there for. So this is a change proposal. What should be the themes for the month of June? Top 4 will be selected. Apparently, only
there's some good ones here already. I can see.
I voted this morning.
Ethgate. That already has 4.5%. Real or fiction? Roger Ver.
You guys will have a genuine counter voice here too for that one. For anybody who wants to argue the positive for it, I will happily.
I'm going to invite Steve Narioff.
Yes, we should probably, if that gets selected, we should have him on.
Yeah.
We should. We'll invite good old.
You should see if we can invite
Boring Sleuth,
one of the big main ETH community guys. See if they'll actually show up.
Yeah, I have DMs with Boring Sleuth too. He's a smart guy. It's like there are a couple of accounts that are doing. I love it. Chain data investigations,
on-chain analysis. Yes,
amazing. I tried to tell lawyers back before Dragon Chain. I did this expert witness gig, and I was telling them, in the future, you're going to want to have blockchain data to prove various things happened, right? And it'll be a different world than just, they're telling us this, and we know it's a lie, right? Because they're lawyers, right?
Really more people are worried about on-chain identity, and it's really more like using the on-chain element to do things in the real world that identity comes into play.
Yeah. Yep. Next, Roger Ver's case update and its effect on blockchain already has 9%. That's good. One voter, 9%. Should we look who it is?
Yeah.
I am for I am. Right on. That is excellent.
I'm thinking about changing my vote.
Well, you can.
I really want to do the CBDC one and try to get Aaron Day on the show.
We could collaborate, and one of us could vote for one vote the other, right? Network states powered by blockchains as alternatives to the Westphalian nation state. Westphalian? Who made that proposal?
That's got to be Greg.
That'd be Greg.
That would
The
Come on, I like
Westphalian,
And
the
who
Treaty of
voted for
Westphalia
it?
was the creation of the nation, the modern nation state.
Okay,
That's where it comes from.
Okay.
good one.
Okay, I love it. And Lisa has voted. It's already at 8.87%. That's correct. Excellent. What happens to blockchains when CBDCs become the medium of exchange? That'll be that. I mean, that's a super that you make sure happens.
So many states have already outlawed CBDCs. I think it's a moot point to even discuss it. Like, I think you're wasting your time and feeding into the FUD. And that is my personal.
Well, you know, they have the
strong
power because the blockchain has not been adopted as well as it should have been by now, because we were all worried about number go up. That they have the ability to change dictionary definitions, and therefore any laws that are made about CBDCs could potentially be affected by dictionary changes that would make them no longer.
One would imagine
legal.
it potentially inadvertently also applying to stable coins.
True.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
The
then
difference
again,
between
the
the two
federal
is pretty illusory unless you have on-chain privacy.
And the reason I say this is because I've said it several times, and a lot of people don't understand what I mean, but I will often say there is no law, because what people think of as, oh, it's the law, it's in black and white. It's like, yeah.
No, it's in shades
Apparently it
of
doesn't
gray.
really matter, right?
And the way that our system works, right? This is really, that's a goddamn good point, Joe.
Yeah.
The way our system works is adversarial, right? You're a medieval gladiator, and so is the other side, and the winner is the one that God favors in this justice system, right?
Yep.
So you end up with lawyers going for the worst possible most uncharitable interpretation of the law, and the side that wants the other is going for a charitable interpretation of it towards the person being targeted.
Everything could go your way, and I've been told this even by several lawyers. I mean, it's like you're going to spend a lot of money, everything could go your way, and still at the end, you still get this thing, and you have no idea
where you go for
and where the money is behind that fist, right? So anyway,
I think the
law is where you go for accessing the weaponry of the state, right? So if you want to use the state to make something happen, you got to win a lawsuit.
Yeah,
right. That's what I was getting ready to say, because the federal powers trump the state powers, so the state can call anything illegal if they want, but they could get.
I wonder if that's a reason.
And a U.S. Marshal's the same thing as a sheriff, man. They'll repossess stuff.
I wonder if the reason why the Tether Mafia has not gotten called up is because they, like Greg said, they kind of ushered in CBDCs, and they were like the test project for it to get people used to it. Like, this is regular money. This is almost, this is digital money. This is digital dollars. This is how you can that's the thing you can tell to shop owners who are worried about the volatility for a cup of coffee and taking crypto for stuff. It was stable coins. It was Tether.
Which is
I
nuts
think
too.
Tether
right?
Mafia paid their tribute to the other mafia cartel regime.
And I think they helped to usher it in. You know what I mean? And that's why they're not
right.
Because they could have. It's everybody knows, that it's like when we policed ourselves, we were like, "Hey, we want audits. Hey, why is this audit? Why aren't you showing this stuff?" It was like the Epstein files. We were calling to see where the money was, and we never really got an answer. And it just that now when
the crypto people don't care.
What I don't get about any of this stuff is like CBDC and stablecoins both. Why would anyone want to expose themselves to the continued inflation like that? It's like the feature is it's like dollars, but the
it's education.
cost of that is like you get to continue to get looted by
that's
the Fed.
An education question. I remember once talking to a shopkeeper in Seattle, and that was his. It's like, why would I get that? It's too volatile. And I'm like, it's been volatile in a positive direction for a long time, and any reverse. And I did say also at the time, you could accept Bitcoin back then, and Coinbase and I think BitPay as well would immediately convert it to dollars if you wanted. right?
Right.
It's
Well, we
it's
also
like
know
a crazy
volatility
thing.
smooths as volume increases, right? So adoption
Exactly.
would solve
Exactly.
the problem.
It's just educational question. So okay,
I already
next,
changed my vote. This discussion is too good.
how blockchain is solving real world problems. Layer ones versus layer zeros. Can AI and blockchain be used to improve each other? Can blockchain save jobs lost to AI? And has AI stole blockchain's center stage and funding? It's like, well, AI is more easily
An interesting question.
manipulated, which is something to say, and is important because I think it's going to replace Google for how do I answer this question, and AI is going to provide that answer, and whoever holds those keys is going to be able to define that answer and just say, oh, it's the AI. That's what it said. I didn't have anything to do with it. Anyway, very good.
These are
So
great. The ones that didn't win or that don't win this time around should totally go into the next one.
that's what happens. I think they keep them, and so we might get some some of these brand new ones. There were some people who asked if we shouldn't roll them off too, but whatever, we'll do whatever. This is a DAO. You guys can make proposals and I'll vote on them, right? So that is the vote. The theme this week is blockchain and the end of aging. So there was a request made. I'm going to do a refresh here, but before we got on, I think is it yours? I am.
Yes, I thought
one right
we
here.
could start right there with a quick 2-minute video. Real quick, if you could click on the picture. Oh, wait, no, that's the video. That would be the video to play, but it was just fine. We'll see it.
Okay.
Do you know what year this video came out?
9 months ago.
Okay, so it's relatively up to date, or it should be relatively up to date.
Yeah, and it's straight out of Harvard Medical Center labs.
Yep.
And those two mice are of the same litter. They're essentially genetic twins. And
yep, and one of them, and they were both twinned with progeria, right? They both originally were given progeria.
No, one was and one wasn't.
Right. Okay.
So I'm gonna have to, just so you know, I have to stop sharing and reshare with audio so that we can do this. So one second, I'm gonna do that.
And you might want to pause it in the middle so we can comment. So then that way we don't get a YouTube copyright strike.
Good idea.
During the news, during it.
Okay, I have it with audio. Let's see. Can I? You guys getting it?
All right, well, how about this?
Yeah.
In reversing the signs of aging, researchers say that they found a way to make mice look and even feel younger.
We want to talk to these mice. WBC's Jordan Jagelinster takes us into the lab to show us how they did it.
Researchers here at the Sinclair Lab within Harvard Medical School tell me this study is the first of its kind to show that epigenetics, which is the way that DNA is organized, can be changed, meaning scientists can now drive and reverse signs of aging.
There's a clear way to accelerate aging through disruption of the epigenetic programming in cells. It can then also be restored back to a youthful state.
Thomas Dixon McDougall was part of the study that took 13 years. It looked at mice within the same litter. Take a look at your screen. Here are two mice with the same DNA sequence, but as you can see, they don't look the same.
One of them has had this artificial aging construct.
That mouse is the one that looks older. Then researchers reversed that process. PhD student Chris Petty says by repairing their DNA, they made the mice more youthful.
Okay, I did the pause there. Any comments?
Yes, is they actually aged one, so it's kind of scary.
That's the point to make here is for people who are maybe skeptical that this is possible, right? What you've seen is an accelerated aging setting on the right mouse and a youth setting on the left mouse, right? This is like, I mean, everybody can agree that progeria exists. You can get a disease that makes you age prematurely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought that was the Gary Coleman and Webster disease.
Oh yeah,
right.
Is it? Did they have that? Is that what that was?
Oh, that's what they had. That was
as it turns out, it can go the other direction. It's
But
really
this is
fantastic.
saying that it can correct what the progeria, not that it can. Did they take a
Well, this is
mouse
this-
and go backwards without aging at first?
you can,
Yeah,
but
they-
you have to wait.
it-
You have to wait for the mouse to get old, which is a couple years.
Well, they
so
said they sent it
those kinds of
forward
studies
and
are-
backward.
That's correct.
That's
Right, but but only
I have a question. What's the difference between? Is it just words? What's the difference between this and eugenics? Science.
Oh,
Eugenics would be more along the lines of breeding. So you would
But
breed
no.
a mouse to have certain characteristics.
Well, what about? Okay, well, I've been looking into CRISPR the past couple.
Yeah.
Of weeks, and that involved going in and changing, adding attributes physically.
Well, you can also delete with it.
Yeah, you can delete stuff, but like you could add in, faster genes to make like muscles faster, bigger, stronger, smarter. You can add that in.
The difference between that, Sean, and eugenics is the idea that this can be done in vivo to existing people, right? So you can like go in and have a treatment and have your own muscles get like that. You don't have to selectively breed within the population.
And this
in order
is this something to
get
do?
there.
I mean, like say I can't remember, but I remember, well before this part, some of the research was around something to do with the genome itself, but not individual genes. It was almost like there were some elements that break down over time that can't be replicated as much, and that they were looking at improving some of those. Is this actually editing genes, or is this
right? It's CRISPR stands for something to do with palindrome. Basically, it's CRISPR-Cas9, and CRISPR is the technology they found. Like all cells have this machinery, right, that goes in and does this editing.
Yeah.
It's not really. It's dormant, except in bacteria, which use it as a form of viral defense. They discovered this, and then were able to figure out that different enzymes, one of them being Cas9, cut at palindromic repeats. And that's like points in your DNA where, the same sequence of 4 key chemicals to life repeat palindromically. So adenine, guanine, thymine, what's the other one?
cytosine?
So you would have an ATC or adenine, AGTC, and then a CGTA, right? So it'd be a palindromic repeat.
Yeah.
And those are cutting sites for Cas9 and for different, like you can actually see CRISPR, Cas11, CRISPR, other acronym number thing, right? They found a lot of different cutting enzymes that are specific to different sites.
Wow.
So
that's amazing.
That's how you can tailor it to do specific edits on the genome, because as it turns out, these palindromic repeats are everywhere.
Yeah.
So
They've forever
you
not
can use them
known.
as start and stop signals.
Yeah, because I almost went into genetics, and there's a lot of interesting stuff, because the genes that were, especially back then, that were known, that there was a lot of other data that they didn't know what it was for, right? And they thought that it had something to do with the
right.
The copies.
As it turns out, these are just genetic states that can be tweaked, right, by your body's own systems. It's just that we haven't been able to manipulate them until now.
Right.
What? Me and Lisa
Okay.
got into a bit of a heated discussion Tuesday on this. What if that was turned over to AI?
That's actually part of what we're going to find out, is that it already to a certain degree has.
See, I told you, Lisa.
It's
She
still
made
won't
it-
do
The way that
harm
you
to us
find
because
how
AI is not
parts of the genome
sentient
function
and
is
cannot
AI.
be.
Say that
It's gonna be
again.
interesting. So I'll
I
keep
said
going.
AI is not sentient.
That was a good
and
break
cannot
there,
be.
right? 1 second. I'll keep going. So this is let's go.
Youthful.
And turning these genes on is sufficient to erase aspects of aging.
Petty says the process was harmless, like getting a shot at the doctor.
the cells uptake the information, translate that into messages in the form of protein that do all the work to remodel the chromatin into a more youthful state.
And both researchers say the mice were overall healthier.
Yeah, with this, we did see like signs of increased muscle strength and activity.
They are now trying to figure out how the discovery could help people.
If we can intervene early, or even as this study shows later on in the process, to reverse the aging, it seems like we might be able to have a more broad way of impacting many diseases all at once.
In Boston, Jordan Jaggelinser, WBZ
Two
News.
things real quick.
Good pause.
Isn't it interesting, the world of TV interviews? It's been so long since I've seen the voice.
Right?
Anyway,
CBS
but
Boston,
the second thing,
man, they nailed it.
someone needs to take this and like run a youth filter on each sequence of the showing the researchers.
Yeah.
For some reason,
I mean,
they're getting younger.
Have you seen a
during
picture
this.
of
It's
David
like, no, I'm
Sinclair,
not
dude?
taking it myself.
Pull up a picture of David Sinclair and just let's have everybody try to guess how old this dude is. This is the guy who created this shit.
Well, I've always been interested in anti-agapic stuff because it seems like such a.
How old do you think that dude is?
I don't know. Is he kind of like
weird? Yeah, he could be.
He's 54,
35, or he could be 50. Yeah.
Look, that is a young looking 54. Is all I gotta say.
Well, I'm 70.
Sean. I think I'm older than Sean actually, by a month or something like that.
I think it is like one of us is older by a month. But there's stuff like resveratrol,
resveratrol, right?
metformin. There's all types of drugs that take, and rich people take them before. Like
really?
They're fine. They don't have diabetes. They take metformin.
Right. They'll just take metformin. Although metformin, all it really does is slow the process.
And well, same with resveratrol, which is with the skin of red grapes.
Yeah, if you take resveratrol I take this too, actually. Resveratrol, you can get it over the counter at the grocery store.
Really?
Yeah, and it's just in the supplement section. And I take that with NMN, which boosts NAD+. That you have to take those two together. So
the problem with all of this, so first of all, I did not see that they did the reverse on a non-injected mouse to make it younger.
I'll send you the research if you want to see it, Lisa.
I do want to see it, because the other thing is I do a show with Dr. McDaniel, Dr. Reg McDaniel, and he was like the guy that tested the Dallas Buyers Club AIDS guys back in whatever.
Right, yeah.
He's brilliant. And he was also threatened by the power.
I think it goes without saying that this needs to be developed by the private sector and not by the government, because they can do evil things with this technology.
The problem with all of this is that a drug, if it is approved, first of all, has to have a lethal dose. Second of all, can only exist to stop or the problem or the the side effect.
Right. We only treat reactively.
For it to be approved, it has to also be shown that when you remove the drug, that that the problem still exists,
right?
Or the symptoms still exist. So,
right. And Lisa, the way that I see what you're driving at, and the way that this links up is progeria is the same thing as aging. Like it's from a genetic state standpoint, curing progeria is the same thing as curing somebody who's already old of age. The mechanisms are identical. You can look at a mouse with progeria.
Then show me the mouse that has no progeria. That they've
been doing these, like they said, for 15 years. I will send you.
Okay.
I'm excited for you to see this, because
I would love. I mean, it would be awesome. I'm just saying. I have questions.
This is a really, I've been following David Sinclair for a few years now, and the whole idea, because the real key takeaway here is most of us die from aging. In other words, a lot of cancers come about after we've aged.
Right.
And things like dementia,
Alzheimer's,
Parkinson's. A lot of things are old age diseases.
Right.
So
a young person with Parkinson's.
But also
if we could freeze
stuff that we've learned that is in our food,
right?
Things that affect it that bring it quicker.
Let me finish. Yeah. Exactly. So the idea here is either freezing your current age or going back a little bit, but there are like 12 or 14 predominant markers that change our aging process, such as food and diet intake, and environmental, which also triggers different diseases.
Right.
Diseases.
Your epigenetic system is a way your cells adapt your
Right.
DNA to your environment.
So all of these ideas and combining with being able to change that, shall we say, the on-off switch to aging. But what's going to be, there's so many societal questions, but the other big issue is the FDA, or if you even want to, whatever, for all of them to come into agreement and say, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and allow these kinds of therapies to go forward. One of the things is, like Lisa mentioned, one of the things is, can this be reversed? And well, you could say, yes, it could be reversed, but in a sense it couldn't. So in other words, we would have to create new guidelines or new legislation, whatever, for this to actually be tried on humans.
Or
then that would allow true healing.
Or guys,
And they don't want that.
consider this path, because this is actually probably what they're doing. Imagine you apply AI to a search and say, we know that we can use this genetic editing technology to achieve this outcome in a cell. Are there any small molecules that we know of or that can be assembled that do the same thing? And you ask an AI to do that search. And as it turns out, it comes back with 7 or 8 really great candidates, 2 of which are the subject of another recent study that's more recent than that video. So you can now use the chemical drug approval process to get there by just saying, we're going to treat Alzheimer's with this. We're going to treat blah, blah, blah with this. It gets approved for one thing. Off-label use for aging is the next obvious occurrence.
When you looked at the pictures of David Sinclair, he is constantly checking his blood, and he's looking at his particular markers. His blood is telling him that he's actually in his 20s. Yep. His muscle mass, brain functions, all of these kinds of things. And he looked at those 12, 14 markers that change your life. And now, not to say that he hasn't failed in the past. There was a $700 million failure when he was looking at resveratrol or something like that.
Resveratrol is by itself ineffective at doing about anything. You have to combine it with NMN.
And that was kind of a failure. Which
let me know what that is again, Greg, because I've been taking resveratrol for a while.
Yo, what are you supposed to take it with?
Yeah, what's that?
You have to. It's hard to get these days because recently, after it started showing some actual results in a lab, the FDA blocked it from people because a drug company wants to use it. But there are still places that sell it. I can send you a link.
There's one thing I wanted to bring this up: the AI thing you talked about. A friend of mine, also, if you have Monarch wallet, Monarch is stopping support for the wallet as of July. This is Robert Beatles, and he's very, he used to be huge in crypto, but he's kind of moved. It's much more bigger in politics. He was always big in politics, but he is really huge in his own state politics now. He's the one that has Sunlight, that the project that
Operation Sunlight.
Operation Sunlight wants everyone to get involved in like local politics and so on. Anyway,
yeah.
He was very brilliant. So the Satanists were at a state like town hall thing, and then they basically, Satanists are supporting this candidate.
Is this the like Church of Satan people that are sort of Satanists in name only, or is this like actual
these are actual Satanists in not Las Vegas, Nevada. Anyway.
Okay.
They posted several pictures of like them with at standing with signs for this candidate, but the candidate said, they're not endorsing me. It's not like, and then so he put through AI and asked it, are these Satanists supporting and endorsing this candidate? And it just laid out the answer, and it was they're standing with us. It was all common sense stuff. But it was an AI saying it, That was kind of brilliant to use it that way.
That is pretty brilliant. Yeah, I mean, there are definitely good uses of AI out there for damn sure.
A quick note in the chat, Crypto Nana says, drink red wine. Boy, she is spot on as far as that was the location for the resveratrol.
That's how they figured it out.
Exactly. and the best wine at the time was the Pinot Noir is class for red wine, and to get the most of that particular drug. However, unfortunately, the counter effects of the alcohol and the sugars, it's now thought that that's actually a countering effect.
Right.
That
said, you have to like take into account Aubrey de Grey's attitude, right? Like this dude is also a researcher in the same field, focusing on a different thing. Yes. But has always been like, I'm going to drink a beer with dinner because I'm going to enjoy my life. Right. So a glass of wine, even if it doesn't do anything for you from an aging standpoint, is part of what makes life worth living.
Well, what's also interesting, I'm doing Atkins for the past, I'm doing Atkins for a while. So I lose weight. But I can have a cup of red wine, 8 ounces of red wine. So I use that for cooking, but it's only red wine, especially Cabernet Sauvignon and Pinot. So those are the lowest in sugars, the lowest in carbs. They're literally like the best to drink. And when you were talking about drinking red wine, those two are they have the least amount of counteracting ingredients.
Interestingly, it's also present in other naturally red fruits and vegetables.
Cherries.
For instance, you can actually find resveratrol in beets.
Yeah.
And there's heart stuff in beets too.
Yep.
Like really good heart stuff.
Well, anyway, so how does all of this staying young tie in with blockchain?
So here's the question, right?
Do we get back to questions?
Here's the question.
Is in there?
And I hope that it becomes immediately and abundantly clear that there are a lot of reasons why this matters, right? When you think, when you think past the effects of this kind of breakthrough, right? Because if a product like this goes on the market, it's going to be resisted initially in name only by a few people who are, angry with the idea that human flourishing is being improved, right? The anti-humanist types and people who think that
overpopulation,
antibiotics were also a sin, and that anesthesia for surgery was also a sin because you're flouting God's plan for Earth to be a place of suffering, right? Like these folks will resist initially, but it will go wide, right? Like if you could buy this for the same price as you can get an antibiotic, nobody's going to stick with dying of aging, right? Like I can't imagine. So that it's going to be everywhere. And what does that do to the world? What does that do to society? To me, that's where blockchain comes into play.
And quite honestly, I think the big point is if we can go after aging, we can cure. Actually, we don't even have to fight and cure cancers and all these other things, because by turning off the aging, you've essentially prevented those other diseases from rearing their ugly head. So it seems like more likely, or a better smart
might make cancer more rampant because people would live longer, and so they would be collecting those PFAs for longer and longer and longer.
Well, except for those cancers and.
Well, here's something, and I think this is the big thing. I was going to say what that just said. The biggest thing is you can record scientific data, and it can't go away. Now, my friend just died this week.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Of cancer, and he was
condolences.
He was my really really good friend.
How old was he, if I may ask?
He's like 40, like 49, 50.
Wow.
Fucking tragic.
If you want to hear it gets much worse, dude. So this family of his family, we moved to Texas. I'm from New Jersey. I was fish out of water. And there's three brothers, older, middle, and Alan. And Kirk, middle brother, was my best friend. And I lived at their house, and they were a proper Southern family. And Alan loved outdoors. He took me hunting, fishing. It just exposed me to a lot of stuff that I didn't know about in New Jersey. But Kirk, best friend, Love this girl. Got married really early, or young. They had a baby. She's my goddaughter. They were in the the prenatal doctor's office, and this girl's name was Mercedes. They were like, "That's a cool name.
That's a cool name.
We should name our daughter Corvette." So they're like, "How can we do that without it being weird?" So they named her Corey Yvette. But anyway,
I love that. That's awesome.
His wife, my friend, got rectal cancer when we were in our 20s.
Jesus.
Yeah, and they didn't have health insurance.
Like a 1 in 10 million occurrence, probably.
Yeah, and they didn't have health insurance, so she didn't get treatment. That was something like she could have gotten healed, but
yeah,
they couldn't afford it, and I mean, you can't. Everyone says we have medical coverage here. We don't. My son needed.
Well, I mean, and part of the problem is we pour it all into treating diseases of age, right? Like all of the money we spend on healthcare goes there.
Well, here's the thing. Everyone has a story like that. I know. I mean, my aunt died of cancer. My mom had cancer. It's a lot of that. And throughout the year, this takes the minimal amount of research to go down this rabbit hole. Several doctors have said that they've come up with a cure for cancer. Every single one of them died afterwards, like right away, of odd circumstances. Every single one of them, their homes and their offices caught fire, and all the research was gone. And that's conspiracy craziness. It's every single one. But if you look into it, there's so many cases of that where like independent doctors and researchers years ago claim they found something out and then died, and all their research. But if it was on,
there's so much more known about it now that it's not impossible to me that somebody in their home lab could figure it out, right?
But I think because grief, we've never talked about grief. We've talked about anger. We've talked at the Fed and exposing people, and they did terrible things. But there always could be an excuse. We did the terrible things for security, for the protection of the state. There's no excuse for these drug companies except to make money. Like, we could, and people understand it more now. There's no profit in curing someone. There's only profit in treating it or creating
right. And this is one of the ways in which society is going to have to transform itself.
But I think this is something that would make society say, oh fuck it, it's the rope time. I don't care. You know what I mean?
That's the first thing that came to my mind too.
Well,
like you're gonna have to, because the pharmaceutical companies who would normally bring this in because it would be actually solving health issues and making them money legitimately, may decide very well that they're already making more money by all of us dying, and therefore
but age isn't the only cause of death, right? There are lots of others that we don't have the societal resources to spend anything on.
But I mean, getting off the aging thing, just what would blockchain provide?
Yes,
it would provide a place where that research could go and couldn't be set fire to.
That's a very good point.
And that is something that literally has always been able to be done.
Right, it's like an instant immutable public domaining of something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Joe talks about, this is this is put on on our blockchain and on Ethereum, and if that was for scientific research, I think our lives would be changed, because it would take, just like when we talk about Bitcoin taking control of money, this is another thing where people have been controlled and held down. And when you talk about like depopulation and all these other things, if the fight against that is on blockchain, we have a way to keep it and to actually move forward as a species.
Yeah.
And as for which blockchains you would choose, I would want to use any that supported blobs.
What are blobs?
Blobs.
Oh, blobs.
No, binary large objects.
yes.
Binary large objects.
And it's a funny thing. It is a
How you can
cultural
encode a file,
phenomena,
basically.
whether they are blobs or blobs, depends on. I've always paid attention to that with engineers. It's funny.
Right.
That Dragon Chain does, of course, and you need a blockchain that can store arbitrarily large amount of information that's scalable enough if you had trillions of data points to work on, and that can leverage other blockchains, right? And it doesn't have to be
you want to knit together
chain,
a whole bunch. You want to use a multi-chain interface, like kind of like Dragon Chain is.
Yeah,
exactly. Think about it a certain way.
You want the proof, even let's say, some crazy scenario. Let's say Bitcoin falls over some unknown hole in Bitcoin. Ethereum's still there. Other chains are still there, right? So you need to put this proof on as many possible chains as.
And what's critical is that word immutable ledger. You want to make sure that Big Pharma isn't going in there and deleting stuff.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that whatever the trial, outcome is, it's not manipulated, altered, deleted, changed.
Right. You wouldn't want to have the central. You wouldn't want to have a central NIH digital research repository to coin a parallel to CBDC.
Yeah, right? You have to pay to see the actual research and all that. And I will say, I mean, you could say tinfoil hat, and as we move further and further into the future, this is less and less crazy to say that. I think one of the reasons they've come after several crypto, it's obvious they came after library because it was competing with somebody.
Well, I mean, and it allowed immutable upload of videos.
It was something I didn't initially think at first, but I was like, the more, seeing dictionaries change and seeing, I would say if this comes up, that Big Pharma will fight, they will lobby to kill projects like Dragon Chain, because they don't want that history there, because they want to be able to manipulate it and not have the liability of.
They want to say that it'll take 99 years to release all the documents. That's what they want to be able to do.
And that's a big thing. And whether you're talking about war or you're talking about health, it's all the same stuff. And they want to be able to control history, right? And
that's what the whole biosecurity paradigm is about, right? To use analogies of warfighting to combat human health weaknesses and weak spots.
Yep. Okay. Next question.
I wouldn't choose Solana. Just saying.
Yeah.
Probably not. There's too much trust me, bro, over there.
Yep. Number go up stuff is you need to stay away from for anything that's, in my opinion, that's serious for actual use. I mean, not that you would stay away from Bitcoin. That's, the Bitcoin's only utility is number go up. But I say that it's only recognized utility, but it's real utility, in my opinion, is history.
So this is my favorite question. This is absolutely
it's an old fart question.
Okay.
So this isn't an old fart question. This is
let me read
the core of the issue to me.
Blockchain and society question: assuming we cure aging, how can blockchain be used to make this therapy roll out fair and not just for the affluent? Maybe a blockchain lotto. Finally, what happens to our resources if everyone lives 200 plus years?
Taking question one. This is a great thing to be concerned about, and I think the key here is that we want to combine blockchain with a distribution. If we really want it to be fair, we combine blockchain systems with a distribution mechanism similar to the Silk Road. I think everybody needs free market access to this thing. If you do that, the treatments will sell for so little that everybody will be able to afford them.
And
there's not a person on earth who doesn't have aging as a disease. If there's a cure out there, we can sell it mass market and make a ton of money.
We also
let the market people win.
We also need to tie that to, because I think anybody should be able to do it. And the only thing that I think is, I guess, a big thing that's interesting is culture and morality. And go watch Lord of the Rings when Gandalf is talking to was it Pippin or Merry about dying, right? It's like you don't need to necessarily, you might want to live longer, but I don't want to live forever, right? There's a reason to
speak for
stop,
yourself.
right? Well, no, but it's just, I am speaking for myself. It's like, it should be up to you. It's like, if they came to you, Greg, and said, no, you have to live forever. It's like, but I'm in prison and I just want to,
I'd be like, I already chose that. So cool.
Yeah, I'm just joking. It's like, that's one of those things though. That's
the
like,
whole subject. It makes me remember this in this interview I watched years and years ago. He was a creepy rich guy, like a Soros. It was, I forget who it was, but and Musk said this that got people thinking about us being in a simulation. How things, if you're actually have an open mind and you look at how something is moving at an incredible speed, like I played Atari, and now when you play Fallout or something like that, it's almost indistinguishable from like watching a movie or something that real people. And he said if you just take that, if you look at that technology and you think about the improvement in the next 10 years or 15 years, it will not be indistinguishable. So if that's true, and how do you know you're not in a simulation? And when you look at it that way, you're like, whoa, that's a good point. And this super rich guy who was funding anti-agaphic stuff or aging. He said aging is like it's like a disease, and he said we've already, like I think it's the past 50 years. I mean, this was a while ago that I watched it. In the past 50 years, like the human lifespan has went from literally like 55 average to like 72 average or something like that. So we've been making the human lifespan longer and longer. And if you just look at that data and think of if we've been able to do that in the past, 50 years, then we should mathematically be able to live forever.
So long as we keep progressing.
And when science keeps moving forward, we should mathematically be able to live forever within the next.
You're talking about longevity escape velocity, where eventually we'll kick the lifespan out by more than a year for every year of research we do.
Right, like that was it. It's like every year of research, we seem to be advancing like 2 months.
And that's why we need
that's the average lifespan. And if you just look at that mathematically, within so many years, 25 years, 30 years, whatever, we'll be able to live for 150 or 200 years. Technically.
Well, it'll be, and it won't be. People like to think of this as immortality, right? Like what happens statistically to you on an actuarial table over time is you're more likely to die because of some occurrence, right? Yeah. And that occurrence is aging for all of us as a final default setting right now. But absent that, there's still a lot of other causes of death, right?
Yeah.
So when you say live to 150 or 200, it depends on how accident prone you are, kind of, or like what kind of risks you decide to take.
Yeah,
but when you'll actually die.
Obviously, like humans lived, the average went way further when penicillin was invented. You know, there's all these technological, medical advances that that was a game changer. That was a game changer.
Doctors washing their hands before delivering a baby, for example.
Yeah. So just
Semmelweis, by the way.
But how do we keep it? How do we keep it so that the affluent don't snatch up the initial supply and then curtail it for everyone else?
I'd like to posit that they already have.
I think just like the government, and just like pharmaceutical, it'll have to be.
Celebrities look young.
By the way, there are several treatments that because I know people in the crypto world who take advantage of some of these things. They go to a foreign country to get some what do they call it?
Stem cell therapeutics done.
They do that right now. It's illegal in the U.S. Why is it illegal in the U.S.? And various depends, but it's
because
like
money interests who would prefer it stay illegal, so that
And
their
I
businesses in other
remember
countries can stay
arguing
afloat.
with Trump people about that, or really anti-Trump people. He made a law that basically said if you're a terminal and you're going to die, there's nothing that's off the limits. You can take experimental stuff that's illegal. You can have those treatments.
Is it right to treatment? What's it called? Right?
Yeah,
right
it was, but he did that, and I remember people hate us. Well, I can't argue with that. That's a really good thing. I'm really happy.
Well, I mean,
and people
Sinclair's been doing, man.
People still argue about that, but that was a huge thing. I think that also put a target on.
Called right to try.
We have to think about something else. One thing is the power that this has. Whoever has this initially will have massive power. If there is to be if they take over.
Wait, what?
We always talk about, hey, the police are gonna, make a decision whether they're gonna do us right or what's wrong. But if they have your family can live extra long, if you side with us, it's not just money, where hey they're gonna do it because that's where they get their money from. They're gonna do it because they got to provide for their family. That's a lot easier to make that decision. Like, hey man, I'll get another job. I'll do something else. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna defame. I'm not gonna break the Constitution. I'm not gonna side with evil. But if it's, hey, your family can have this medical treatment that we control, that's a huge amount of power that's given to the government.
You might think so, but the kind of medical treatments you're talking about when you're talking about controlling this couldn't be something as simple as a pill. If you can put it in a small molecule drug and sell it to the mass market, there will be a black market in it and a gray market in it if you try to restrict it like that. It won't stay bottled up. People will want that.
What about a blockchain lotto?
Blockchain lotto would be cool if it wasn't impossible to make enough for everybody to take.
Yeah, right. I don't think there will be a.
It'll be more like a
like that. I think you'll end up, theoretically anybody could take it, or at least
bottle of Advil. That's the price point. Yeah, I think
that would be what. And then here's the thing that I ask about the last part of this question. If everybody, let's say everybody took it, that it was safe and everybody just wants to be healthier longer, and they live 200 plus years, you need a multi-planet species. I mean, that's the beginning of it pretty much. And
also though, like if you can live
people on a craft that could travel for much longer, and whatever, but
the distance between stars is a lot smaller when you live for 500 years.
But exactly. And here's the thing though, it's interesting to me that we've already seen the effects of this culturally, you could look at the West. The fact that we don't typically want to go to war because my life is basically there's this odd thing that's happened in the West where valor is not recognized as much, that someone taking risk to win something, and I think that could even apply to non-life threatening situations. But the fact that everything is so everybody's so scared to do certain things, whereas in the past it would have been like, yes, I'm going to die, but I'm going to do it because I want to die well.
I mean, plus,
right? And what does that affect when everybody's living 200 plus years? When someone dies, it's going to be it's going to be because of an accident instead of
right. And we're going to work to push that number out. The goal will be 1,000 after we get to 200. I mean, that's always how humans
I just want to make sure
not enough.
The thing I want to retain is the fact that it's still worth fighting for stuff that you might not win. Whether or not it's death or not. But it's just that's something that
becomes missing. Yeah, the audacity has to go
now. So
I'd like to yield my mic and time to Lisa. I'd like to hear her thoughts.
Thanks. I just, of course, always go to asking critical questions. What harm can this do? Is this allowed to be used on children? What effects would that have on somebody who wasn't? Is there an age limit that
you will never use it on children?
You could. Well,
no, I mean, it would be
people out there.
It would be insane to point this at a kid, because turning on their
Right.
Well, actually, the way that it works, it wouldn't have any effect on them at all.
Probably
Wouldn't affect their cognitive development, I guess, but it could retard
It would
their
just-
physical development.
Well, because the small molecule that they found using AI in the most recent paper only works back to about a biological age of 25. So if you're not already at that setting,
25.
then
that's the other question.
Yeah, 'cause I was thinking, would that make childhood like 30 years? I mean, would it?
Isn't it already? I'm joking.
We're children in the universe if we can kill this.
Does this follow the same rules of vampirism, where when you get bit, that's when it freezes? Or I'm just
Yeah, I've been thinking about that the whole conversation.
Me too.
Vampirism.
That's, imagine how. So you know how you wake up one day and you notice a gray hair, and you're like, you pull it out and you're like, well, fuck that. And then eventually it gets like too much to pull them out.
Yeah.
So you just sort of let it happen, and just just like try to wear it. Well, that shit is exactly what will happen with reversing the process, right? You wake up one day and you notice fewer gray hairs, and you notice fewer wrinkles on your face, and
really?
you notice that you're not as tired at the end of the day.
Botox.
That's how it would feel.
See,
So that's a question too.
Explains it. If he was on Good Morning America or whatever, that would be perfect. Every human being would be like, oh yeah,
we want that.
We get that. My gray hair, then a few. That yeah, I'm on board.
But the the makeup companies. What's that? The beauty products. They would come out.
Right, they would hate it.
No, we already have the
lobby against that the same way they lobbied against Accutane.
Yeah, but that's the horsewhip thing. That one thing that Greg said to me has changed my whole outlook on power. That the automobile was coming up, and this huge lobby with all this political power and financial power, the horsewhip industry.
Yep. That's why, and I think you can tell, like a nation state, you can probably judge a nation state very well by something as simple as certain technology being introduced, and the fact that it's funny, isn't it, that so much of what is crypto came out of the U.S., but so much would have been better somewhere else, because the U.S., the bankers control the freaking country, and therefore you can't. This technology is not wanted by them. So guess what?
Well, and what's interesting to me is what it will do to the financial system, right? Because the entirety of our amassing of capital process in the institutions is done through the 401k, 403b retirement account industry, right? Which is a natural extension of the fact of everybody getting scared about getting old.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Social Security won't be enough. You need to save.
And I guess
you hear when you go to the meeting.
One of the more attractive things about being
what
a
if that goes away?
Was always the fact that they knew every language. There is a particular historical figure that a lot of people think is a vampire. I can't remember his name. It's some European figure that showed up historically and then showed up and looked the same way too long later. What's his name?
The Count of
Vlad the Impaler.
No, he was
Count of Monte Cristo.
Would all life insurance contracts have to be canceled as a force majeure the day this treatment was released?
He was just a good con man.
I know, I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, but he was like he was like the king of France. He said that like he could take the flaw out of any gem. He was a smart guy, brilliant guy, but he would talk about history. He was supposedly here. He's the wandering Jew that when Jesus was carrying the cross and fell, he was the guy that went to him and said, "Hey, you got to get up. You got to get going."
What was that guy's name?
And Jesus said to the guy, "I will find rest, and you will never rest." And so the guy just never died. That's what this dude said that he was, but he was
Simon.
Right? Yeah.
Simon. Yeah.
He was just a con man. I forget what was it.
Yeah, he was like the last real Lazarus. They should call it the Simon effect.
Yeah.
I often think of the vampire club. They're all living to 400 or 500 years old, and they come together for their vampire convention or something, and they're all wealthy.
Isn't that in Davos?
Yeah, Davos.
Yeah, I think
They're all wealthy because they've invested their money and they could foresee trends because they've learned all these trending, and so they're extremely wealthy. They're extremely connected to society as puppet masters. The WF, there you go. And I always picture it that way. So if this technology proves out,
but the first one of them to sell it to the mass market, though, is going to get rich.
But that's the point. If they control the distribution, then only a handful of these people are going to become ultra wealthy and ultra controlling. It's the nature of who we are. It's our valuable, infallible,
Right, but that way is exactly why it will come to everybody cheaply ultimately, because you can sell it at mass market price. No, you can sell this thing at mass market prices. There's not a single person who doesn't have the target condition.
I don't know, but the research has got to get paid. The research has got to get paid.
Right, but usually, these guys are not distributing it themselves. I think you should look into how Sinclair's companies handle
anything. I will tell you, anything in the West that is based in pharmaceuticals, you can't ignore non-market principles, because they're the very people that hold the keys to much of this are not.
So what you're saying is that if antibiotics were invented today, they would only allow rich people to use them?
It's entirely possible.
Yes, it's possible.
I really do think. I mean, as horrible as that is, I do think that's entirely possible. And I think they've gathered so much power now that
the creators
don't they want more power. Like, imagine all the money they could make if they sold it at a mass market price.
No, but then they have more competitors for the resources that are on this planet. But
we get off.
More importantly,
I would the asteroid belt that becomes moot.
The researchers would want it disseminated amongst everybody and a fair and rollout. But unfortunately, that's not the world that we live in.
Well, it would be, for example, more difficult to keep wraps on, or more possible to keep wraps on if they hadn't published the chemicals they intend to use.
Totally. That's why
I've already seen it. I've already got copies of it. I can absolutely go out and order the same small molecule myself and do
I think
home experiment if I feel like it.
In my opinion, these researchers are probably, they would want the right thing. The problem is the pharmaceutical companies run by the way by veterinarians, right? I mean, it's like, it doesn't even make sense. The CEOs of these pharmaceutical companies, these are not there because they're great scientists who want to do good for the world. They're there for other reasons, and I'm not even going to say it's pure, because I don't even believe that it's purely economic reasons.
You guys know the name of the company that's going to be selling it?
No.
It's called BioLife Sciences, I believe.
It's Saint Germain
company.
That's the guy. Saint Germain. He's the one that lived forever. It was like
Saint Germain. Thank you.
Germain.
Thank you. I
tried to.
Man, where did you find that? Because I can't even find that.
Life Biosciences is the name of the
company.
company.
Help Christ, they became the laundry Jew.
Wow, we're already an hour in. Do we
check it out?
Time for one more question?
Let's do the
when I got put in the hospital like a little less than a year ago, I was in for 2 months. And the doctors told me it was because of the stick. When I got out, I got my prescriptions, and it was $2,000 a month. And I said, well, not going to get those. So I literally just didn't get. And one of them was like $800. And it was because it just came out. So the laws are basically, you've got 2 years, charge whatever you want. The laws are set up to wean the poor. And honestly, everyone in charge, if you could not tell me someone different, like Gates and all of these people come from a eugenics background or family.
Yep.
So it's the easiest, simplest, legalist way to use capitalism in an evil way to thin the herd.
That's the truth.
It is.
I mean, look at Gates' mom and dad.
Well, we can't let these fuckers win.
No, we can't.
Right?
We have to do this well. And by the way, I mean, this question, how can blockchain be used to record anti-aging therapy side effects for everyone to participate, post, and see? Put it on Den. You can save the proof for it.
One more thing on
Well, I mean,
that.
and they need to do a fully rigorous study process.
When I complained
This isn't
about
an
it-
emergency rollout, right?
When I complained about it to my
It's a
friends,
careful rollout.
my friends that are pharmacists and farm techs, they came to me and they said, hey, that's how things are, but you have no idea how expensive things are. They told me this creepy fact. What do you think the most expensive prescriptions are? Anything for children.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another
Diabetes,
angle real fast, too, guys.
For an adult,
Another angle.
I want to hear this. I want to hear what is it? Which one is it?
Any of it. If it's the cancer treatment, it's like 10 grand. But if it's that cancer treatment for a child, it's like 18 grand.
I know I have somebody in the family that had
Jacked up.
that there's this drug that literally it's 30 grand a month. And they take this and he's like, we
That's the
can't
Hep
pay
C
30
drug,
grand
right?
a month. Right. And so, you know, they have to go and they have to play games with the insurance company and with the pharmaceutical company over and over again. And it's obvious that it's to them it's throwaway. They've sent it to the pharmacy and it's in the refrigerator and the pharmacist is at, do you want this? And we're like, it's like, well, what is it? And it's like, oh, it's apparently it's $30,000. And I'm like, oh, and so they just sent it there. You think they're gonna sell that to somebody there? No, it's ridiculous. So,
yeah. Well, okay. Counter case though, can we afford not to make sure everybody takes it? Right? How much money do we spend on Medicare, Medicaid type stuff right now, every year?
Great point.
Right?
Oh yeah, totally.
If you eliminate the primary cause of the need for such things, like how do you fix Social Security? Oh, you could also just make it so that people don't need to retire.
You're 25 again.
Yeah,
That's a good question.
All of the savings there would justify distributing it to everybody under one last final mega push spend.
Does that Trump executive order still exist? The right to try or whatever it's called. And if so, why not? Why don't we have these researchers just take a bunch of the oldest people that want to do it and see how how
HIPAA laws are offensive to me. I don't know about you guys, but I don't like the idea that there is a level of thing I cannot consent to.
I don't mind it on the other side. It does keep
the other side. I appreciate it, but on that side, it does bug me.
Totally. I don't know. All any law
like to me, like the consent is at the checkout counter. If you want to buy it, that should be enough.
That's true.
But also, what's weird is how. Okay, you go into a store, you have a problem at any institution, and they're like, "Hey, we can't do that." Why? It's against policy.
It's against the law to sell you something you'd like to buy from us.
That's not against the law. That's you can do it. You just won't. It's not a law.
Okay.
It's a policy. And the people used to tell me, "Oh, we can't do this because it's against the law, HIPAA law." But whenever the gingivitis outbreak happened, hey man, they'll come out to your car and take blood. Before they're like, you got to squeeze your butt into this little chair, and I'm like, can't you give it to me here in this comfortable chair?
Ridiculous.
And they were like, no, it's against the law. And then literally they were coming out to my truck.
It's against our compliance department policy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. All of a sudden, all the laws went out the door.
It went out the door.
They in fact, we had that Safe Pass thing, which was using decentralized identity to make it to essentially be able to follow all the privacy requirements in any given jurisdiction, and yet still provide the ability for the user to show. I'm not even going to show you my score, but by these rules, wherever I am, that I'm allowed to come in to work as a bartender, right? And guess what? Google, Apple, IBM, all collaborated, let's say, they colluded in order to prevent anyone from coming in with anything that didn't follow their APIs. In fact, they kept us out of the app stores for a month and a half or something when we were saying we already follow all the laws. We don't need a waiver, right? And they really wanted people to be putting their medical information and identity into these Google and Apple APIs that would supposedly ensure that it was safe with that. And it was ridiculous because that's all IBM could do, because their tech wasn't good enough to do what was needed. And so, they were squeezing it all down, and they probably just wanted all that info somehow or other. Anyway, but we're at an hour.
It wasn't just the medical industry that threw the HIPAA laws out. It was everything. Like, I mean, they could
so they just people stopped paying attention to them.
You can't ask anyone. Not allowed to ask you about this. Not allowed to ask you about that. And it got to the point where you'd go into Starbucks and the dude behind the counter would be like, "Have you had this medical procedure?
Yep.
Before I can take your order."
A restaurant in Seattle, in order to sit, you had to show your vaccine card.
The first time it happened to me, I'm like, "Have you ever had an STD? Do you have gonorrhea now?" And they would be like, "What?" I'm like, "Well, look, you want to ask me about my medical stuff? I'm asking you about yours, because you look like a guy that has had STDs. I just need to know." And then we get pissed, but it's the same thing.
Yes. Yep.
When you hold the mirror up to the ridiculousness,
it's amazing. By the way, and that's something I do think it's in our favor that happened, because so many people who went along with that won't do it again, because they realized how full of shit that whole thing was.
The kid at Subway was threatening you to not make your lunch.
Oh my God. Yeah. Go into a hardware store without a mask in Seattle back then.
Everyone was a cop. Yeah.
And I've become a dick the past month.
Yes. That's what I've been waiting for. That is what I've been waiting for.
I'm posting stuff now, like, the woman sitting at her desk in like the whole big plastic thing, and I'm like, "Hey, look what a fucking idiot you guys were. Stupid." Just like they were like, "Oh, these people want to kill you. These people don't care about you." And then I mean, I posted one the other day. It was like, you just automatically stay 6 feet away from people and do this and do this. Aren't you glad the government didn't tell you to suck someone's dick?
People would have.
It was on the other side. They were like, "These people are trying to kill us. They don't have a mask on. They're trying to kill you." There's places where the people go to old ladies and like we're screaming at them and going off on them. I mean,
we're walking up to two people outside on a picnic blanket and just yelling at them for not sitting there with a mask over their face.
All right.
In the chat,
the weirdest thing. It was funny to me because just like 10 years earlier, we were arguing that burqas were a violation of human rights. When required by law.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Did you see the shampoo commercial?
We are
almost 20 years earlier, actually.
We're into meme territory now, so memes and current events, so we can keep going.
This is a great topic, guys. Thanks for humoring me with this one. This is like one of my biggest sort of side study things that I read about a lot and follow, and it was just really cool to have you guys have a conversation with me about it.
So I got a little real quick backstory on this too. Long before David Sinclair was around, this was in the 80s, and boy, my friends and family thought I was insane, but I was writing letters to Alcoa Foundation, which was located in Mesa, Arizona, I think. And they were the ones that would say, "We can cut off your head and freeze your head, and maybe we can thaw you out later, or we can do your whole body." And at the time, the cost was $30,000 for your head and $100,000 for your whole body. And
Alcor, not Alcoa.
Right? Yeah, that's right. That's it. Sorry. And it's the deep freeze, freeze me now and thaw me out later. And you just take a
vitrification really
policy out for it. And so I thought, well, hey, maybe, even if there's a 1 in a million shot or 1 in 10 million shot, why not throw the dice? It's just a life insurance policy. And I was seriously considering that. And then I met the missus, and the missus like, no, you're going to get cremated, because the last thing I want is for you to come back 80 years from now and I'm some old lady and you're all young and spry and you want someone young.
It's better off if I can't have you, nobody can. And so we're going to burn you.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh,
By the way, for fun, I'm signed up for that. So
oh, are you?
I'm
Okay.
going.
Well,
I'm
I
going
seriously
into whole
considered
body
it.
Alcor, man.
Really?
If I go out before some other technology makes it kind of a moot point.
You show
Oh,
the
this is a
burqa?
good one.
Have you seen the it's going viral now, but it's an old commercial, and it's a shampoo commercial, but the woman's in a like full burqa, and then it shows her washing the burqa, but like the whole thing never shows her hair because she has to be covered. So the whole and she's in the shower with it, shampooing, and it's funny.
Wow.
Yeah.
$20
Here's
a
one.
month
This
life
is
insurance policy, man.
here's a meme that just randomly came up that is pertinent, topical. Anyway,
I took it for a free donut. Boy.
Yeah.
Who took that? I want to meet one of those people.
There was that
I want to meet a
governor
person
that
who's
ate
like, nah, but okay.
he ate burgers and fries. Well, that was them targeting like the youth. Like they told them also like they would have you can get pizza and not go to school, but don't tell your
Candy.
parents.
So this
and
is
all
like
of that.
this is the pre-college youth, right? The ones where they didn't use the
Yeah.
adult version of this, which is we'll make it so you can't go forward with your education anymore if you don't do it.
Well, and that's that whole
Never
you
forget.
know, they should have their permission over their medical and not have to consent to their parent or get parental consent.
knew-
That whole
Yep.
sick movement.
Right.
Um,
The startup being like we're also gonna use this to give them surreptitious puberty blockers and shit like
Was
that.
it Secretary of Defense? They or was it? I can't remember. There was an official that they was questioned.
You're
in
not
front of
old enough
Congress
to
the past
kill
week.
until you're 18, you're not old enough to drink until you're 21, but we can do this to you now.
Right.
If he had any regrets about firing all of the Marines that didn't take the vax. He said no regrets at all, and and yet he was complaining that they don't have enough recruits, and I was like, well, you fired them all because they didn't take a vax. Do you regret that now? It's like, no, I don't have any regrets. We were, and it's like, okay, that was intentional.
I saw there's something in Canada. This business owner, I think it's a pizza place. He's suing for financial damages for them having putting the restrictions that weren't scientific. They weren't needed.
The gym guy got all his money back.
Yeah, he did. I saw that.
Court
He
just
won.
settled on that.
Really? Was that in the U.S. or Canada?
It was in the U.S.
U.S.
It was
This
a
Canadian
gym
guy,
in New Jersey, I believe.
But he's all over the news, and he's like, I'm doing this because I want to set a precedent so everyone can sue. Because that really did. It killed so many small businesses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
there's
then-
some great places. There's some great restaurants that no longer exist because of that crap.
And some entire product classes. Like people don't realize it, but
Intentional.
when Whitmer decided she was going to tape off all the lawn care stuff, there were probably several lawn care implement sellers that died.
Yep.
But if those people are able to get a financial shot in the arm, those are entrepreneurs. Those are the people that made a business work. They'll just restart. It'll come back. If they're able to hit the government. I want to talk about something that there's two schools. I talked with Lisa about this, and then after that,
a business asset.
I saw this interview which blew my mind. John told me. It was about politics, and he said, "Do you think I could bring peace to the Middle East?" He said, "Hell no, I don't know anything about it. I don't even speak the language. For me to think that I can go into that area and bring people together," he said, "that's moronic." He said, if you don't need to speak Farsi, and these people are completely different people. Their way of thinking is different. Their values are different. They're so vastly different, and that.
Yeah, but you kind of missed my point on that. I was saying that we're sending all this money under the auspice that we are claiming to protect democracy, while what's his name, Zelensky or whatever,
No, outlawed votes until the war.
instills himself as dictator and leader. Yeah.
Well, I'm talking about-
We'll have no
I'm talking
elections
about
until
democracy.
this democracy will have no elections
the
until it's
Middle
been
East, though.
saved.
That was my whole point of
I'm talking about the Middle East. The Middle East, where we
I wasn't talking
we
about the
don't
Middle East.
understand it. These people, and I was trying to tell Lisa that there's been hate, and we have a couple of generations in the United States. That's all we have. But these people have had generational hatred for each other for way longer than the country's been around. Our country, for like
Right.
thousands.
We also make the worst mediators on the face of the planet for them. Considering
But I
we've
saw
done to
this
their country
interview.
for the last century.
Saw this interview with a Palestinian
Their country
expert
is-
woman, right? And then it was Piers Morgan, and this guy who is the son of one of the founders of Hamas. So everything this woman said, this dude is like, "Shut up, Karen. You don't know anything. You went to Gaza and probably had a falafel and a good time, but you don't know anything." And
Dude.
he was saying things that blew my mind. He
Have
said,
you seen
"They're
Bill
not-
Burr talk to Bill Maher about this? Similar attitude.
Yeah.
Badass.
But this dude said Palestinians aren't real people. He said nobody wants them. Because I've learned that it was the
What a bunch of
Brits,
crap.
the Brits who went in there and did this, and all those people are Jordanians. They just made up this thing. Oh, we're now Palestinians, but they're all Jordanians. But he said nobody wants them because they're psychos. He said, except for Iran. Iran wants this for some crazy reason, but Jordan doesn't want them. Egypt doesn't want them. None of these people are opening their borders. None of these people are helping them. Saudi Arabia doesn't want them. This is the son of one of the founders of Hamas saying Hamas.
But would you want them either? Think about this. The U.S. government and Israel are going after them to exterminate them wherever you put them.
Yeah, but he's like, they're going to die. He's like, they don't. And he said, if
good way to
like
get
a
your country
million of
data.
them die, but the Hamas. This is what he said. Hamas looks at it. We have 100,000 soldiers. We care about them. If we kill 2 million civilians but protect our soldiers, that's all that matters. It's just the level of hatred is we can't understand it. And this is the dude's, his father founded Hamas.
You can at least sympathize with it. I mean, if let's say that Austin, you're in Austin, right? So let's say that Austin was held by a foreign power that hated you for 80 years, and now they're it's like, do you not think there would be an Austin version of Hamas? I do, right?
There would be.
Like, where's the source
Right.
of the hatred? It's
Big
like, they're gonna
surprise.
come
You
in and
target a
steal all
group
of
of
our
people
land?
with state violence, and what happens, right? You create extremists.
Yeah, it's a natural thing. I think it's a good human
Like, you'd think
reaction.
we would have learned
to
that
evil.
from Afghanistan
right?
in the 80s before.
Mhm.
Had we might not
Oh,
have
speaking of which, real quick,
done
a
some of the
current
stupid
event.
stuff we've done that
A
caused
current event
like,
that mirrors something
Osama
from
to be
that
trained.
whole 9/11 thing. That, if you remember, it was like a month or a month and a half before 9/11 that a news crew interviewing the head of state, I believe, of Afghanistan,
Mhm.
and they had a bomb in the camera, and they assassinated
So
him and his whole team. That happened right before 9/11. And what just happened recently over there, Iranian
right,
President.
right.
yeah.
So what
Uh,
here's a question.
his
What 9/11s are we
helicopter fell
creating
hard.
by our actions now? Right? Like, because Osama bin Laden got
Well,
trained
who did
because of our
9/11?
proxy war with Russia
Right.
in Afghanistan in the 80s, right? That's why he got trained. We actually paid for it. The CIA
He was
taught
CIA,
Osama
I'm
bin
sure.
Laden how to be effective.
So, yeah.
So,
Lisa,
like-
what were you trying to say about the Iranian president?
That his helicopter had a hard landing is what the newspapers were saying, and then he was missing for a while, and so
Now he's dead. Yeah.
now
And the
he's
foreign minister was with him,
supposedly dead.
and I don't know, a
Yeah,
couple
they
others.
said it was a crash. They finally said,
I-
yeah, it's a crash.
I tend to
Let me-
think I'm going to go with the idea that it was extremely foggy. I'm not going to be conspiratorial on this one. It was extremely foggy. The other two helicopters said, no. And this one marched on because it's the president, and poor decision making. They didn't have a lot of the technology that, say, a lot of newer helicopters have. And the pilot erred, dumbass. But does it really make a difference? Hell no. You know why?
They were flying
Because
VFR,
the
basically.
Supreme leader, the Khomeini of Iran, it's a theocracy. He wasn't in the helicopter. Only the president of Iran, who's in charge of government sewers and dams and government taxation and government, issues of state, and not the theocracy.
Well,
completely
you had
different.
to have some power because I saw videos of women celebrating and drinking wine, and they're supposed to be, in mourning or whatever. But apparently, it was a great day over there.
It's sort of the way you can think about the government there is it's more of a parliamentary model. You can think of their president as more like a prime minister, with their council of elders acting as a head of government. Like he's the head of state. And it's a constitutional monarchy where the guy who's in the constitutional monarch is elected. Is sort of how it works.
Well, the constitutional monarch, no, it's a theocracy.
George Washington one,
right? It's a theocracy, but like if you want to think about it in terms of like a Western government, it's a lot more like Britain in what the president does as prime minister.
The Sharia law, right?
Like,
see, can I say something? And it's a sad state of affairs, but I don't trust what the Western media has told us about Iran. I used to.
Yes.
I don't believe it.
I haven't
it's
trusted
like,
that
it's a
for a long
theocracy, and it's like,
I've known some Iranians,
man.
man.
I don't really believe
Iranians
half
are
the
cool
stuff
with
they
me.
tell me now. So
that's another thing that this dude, who's the son of one of the founders of Hamas, said we don't want Islamics in the government. He's talking about everyone else. He's talking about Egypt. He's talking about Saudi Arabia. Talking about Jordan. But that thing about George Washington, the 3% tax on tea, that was, that's not why. And I was reading Plato this week, and I mean, you can't go further back than really Plato. It's like going to the, almost the beginning. And the things that he said are the same things that we talk about today, the same wisdom, but we need that. And it just shows me how things don't change. It's the same thing, different day.
it was a fundamentally libertarian movement. The difference was they were in charge of it.
It's like, don't do, the whole thing about, what was it? Just indifferent men deserve to be ruled by a tyrannical.
Well, I mean, how much have you guys thought about the fact that the Anglican Church has a sort of papal structure, right? Were they trying to put an episcopate in the United States before the colonies rebelled? Is the question. And I think that's actually what drove a lot of people at the time to say now's the time for revolution, because we can't have the Church of England getting set up here. We already have our churches. We don't want them in our church freedom. Right?
Well,
that was a lot of it.
I think it's like a George Floyd thing. I mean, every day there's like, oh, the police killed this black kid. Oh, this, and then really bad stuff like this 12-year-old kid who was playing in a park got shot, is unarmed. That's terrible. Some people are mad. But this, kind of this asshole gets killed. That changed the world. Just
imagine the Bishop of New York. That'd be weird.
It's always one little thing that Bud Light. The Bud Light thing has been another thing. It's one little thing, boom, that changes everything. That's it. It snaps. And I think it was like the tea tax, 3% tea tax, finally snapped. And the whole one of the reasons is because they pulled all the British soldiers out of that area,
and it was very effective propaganda too, right? Like there were probably a million other attacks they could have done that worked for that, but that was a propaganda of the deed, kind of extremist attack that was sort of like
it wasn't secret. Like how in school they tell you they snuck in by night, and it's all there was like hundreds of people out there on the docks, like partying and praising it.
The United States invented modern asymmetric warfare.
Can you go back to that Ian Smith meme, the gym owner in New Jersey? He was recently
Yes.
found innocent, which I think is the idea of trying to hide the trying to get us to forget. But what he said here was just amazing. To quote him, because there could be some people that are just listening and not watching. It says, everything the government is doing right now is designed to make you fat, weak, stupid, depressed, lazy, and reliant on the crumbs they wipe off their plates. Health replaced by pharmaceuticals, education replaced by programming, hard work replaced by handouts. These people hate you. And he's speaking to the government after they were closing down during, the great infection. What a hero. What a hero who stood up, stood up against the tyranny and said, no, I'm not going to close. It is the right thing to do to keep us healthy and not weak. And, what a hero.
Right. People going to the gym is what you need in a pandemic. Right?
By the way, I do think, and this is why, although imperfect, I'm thankful for some of what has happened in the recent year and a half or so with free speech in America, because it was really looking bad for a while. But the key question, and there are a bunch of the closer you get to it, the more obvious it is that the Fed finances all of it. We have to get rid of the Fed. No matter what, we have to get rid of the Fed. That's what
the Fed
Bitcoin
will get rid
for.
of itself.
Bitcoin was co-opted, was hijacked. That's not what its goal is right now.
I've
we have to
noticed
get rid of
more
the Fed.
people understand that now.
But
more regular
the
people are
source of that,
saying that now.
and I will say this, and I'll probably get attacked for it, I'm sure. But the big issue of our day is effectively dual citizenship. You have too many traitors that are in positions of power in this country and in the West generally that have caused all of these issues. And it's because they hate us. They don't have, they think of us as cattle. So what needs to be understood by people. And it's, it's just frightening one way or
There's
another.
something very eye-opening to me about this in specific. In New Jersey, this was a little thing, but it was such a huge eye-opening event to me during that time. Tucker Carlson was interviewing the governor of New Jersey. The governor of New Jersey. And he's how he does this. I used to do it in sales when I was a financial advisor. I called it the Columbo effect. If someone was like, "Oh, okay, well, I'm going to think about it," or "I don't know about that," I would act like it's the first time I ever heard it. Like Columbo was like, "I'm just confused. Like, no one's ever said that to me," and they're like, "No one said that? No, ever." And they're like, "What's wrong with me? Why didn't I say that?" And so Tucker Carlson interviews like that. He acts confused all the time, and he asked the governor. Well, so I just was wondering. So you're closing the churches, and people can't go to churches. They can't go to gyms, but you're keeping open the liquor stores and strip clubs. Just what's the reasoning from that? Just wondering. I'm just a little confused. And the governor of New Jersey said, "That's above my pay grade." He said that to me. That was like, he just said he's being controlled.
But you're issuing the order.
He's the governor of New Jersey.
Are you not responsible for this?
How does that
not? He wouldn't be in office if he wasn't controlled.
No, that's it. I mean, no one got that point. He was like made fun of. Like he was an idiot. But
that's
to me
that's why you have to be very careful about religious followings of politicians. I mean, it's like, I was a Trump supporter mostly because I knew he could disrupt stuff and shake stuff up. I was a McAfee supporter. He would have been better at it.
McAfee would have been could you imagine the panic that would have ensued had he been elected instead of Trump?
God.
Could you imagine the chaos?
I think crazier stuff's coming.
God, I love
it's almost like how an earthquake works, where enough pressure builds up of these plates moving, and the longer it builds up, the bigger the quake's going to be, and that's what we're headed towards, because they've been able to keep everything, keep people placated. Oh, you have your McDonald's, you have your Netflix, you have your football. Everybody's happy, and we can keep stealing all the money out from underneath.
And the psychological research continues, right? They're still developing the information weapons to higher levels of efficiency.
It's coming because people are freaking waking up, and it's going to be crazy what's coming up. By the way, did you know about this one? This one's kind of creepy, and it's not being reported anywhere. And someone on 4chan actually got someone to post something in response that people on 4chan are pretty smart about this stuff. That there is this group that went in and attacked some of the protesters in the anti-genocide protesters, pro Gaza, humanitarian stuff. And these people were sent in and they attacked them violently. They've not been arrested. They've not been charged. Guess what they were? They were literally IDF soldiers that happened to be on, they were here on a trip. And it's like, I would think that's an act of war, but it's kind of creepy. Anyway.
Yeah, that was kind of creepy.
Yeah. Did not know that.
It's not good. And nobody reports it, and they'll not be charged. Why is that? Why would this dude who hit someone with a 2x4?
It's a mafia. It's a mafia. It's a cartel state that's controlling everything.
Right.
The Intel super state. There you go.
What do you think about?
It's very simple. It's criminal, right? It's like imagine if the country back in the Depression era of Prohibition had been taken over completely by Al Capone and run that way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What would be the functional difference?
I have mixed
I don't know.
feelings on this thing that's happening. Florida, I think Texas, Arkansas, they're passing this law that says if you're here on a student visa, you're going to school, that if you're part of this protest, even if you're peaceful, but if you have this opinion, you get deported. You lose your visa. You get kicked out of school and sent back to your country. I don't know. It's one of those things that, like Lee and Lisa talked about, where it's like, it's like hooray for our side, but could be. What if it was?
Is that really what it is? I mean, you think about it. These people will fight tooth and nail against deportation of illegal aliens who are here, not being taxed and taking benefits.
Right. And when they're here under asylum, they get access to citizen benefits.
Yeah, they're getting ready to vote.
As soon as it involves Israel, all of a sudden, wait, we need to deport these people. These people are horrible.
It just seems
illegal asylum gets access to Medicare.
Very odd.
Well, by the way, there's a law or a bill pending where they're wanting to give full military benefits, health benefits, and whatnot if you fight in the Israeli Defense Forces. Look it up, and they're trying to pass
the US?
that. Yes, and these people are traitors. They're traitors. And
no, they're criminals, is what
crazy.
they are. They're looting us.
Yeah,
we're being looted by the Clown Brigade. Basically,
that is treason.
The question is when did the coup happen?
It's either. I mean, the base of it, in my opinion, is 1913, because that's when the base.
But the current one was probably
AFK. Was the
I think it was G-Dub was the real beginning of, or not G-Dub, but George Sr. was the beginning of the current regime's.
That's when they
plans.
Took
I think he
power.
and Clinton were in collusion.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think
the merger
he did a lot when he was vice president under Reagan.
Yeah.
I think he did a lot
behind the scenes.
The fertile ground was sown in 1913 by what's his face? The worst president in our history.
Roosevelt.
See,
no,
he wasn't until 33.
Right. The most evil. Wilson. Wilson was the worst.
Wilson was a freaking idiot.
So
he was, by the way, the most educated president. By the way, was Wilson until George H.W. Bush.
Right.
Then he had more education than Wilson.
If you look at it
Roosevelt too, he was like the only Nazi we've ever had in the office.
Yeah. If you look at it as a 4-prong item, you got the banking, Here, check that off, 1913, right? And the taxation. Then you have the military-industrial complex that's building up in the 50s, right? 60s. Right. Then you have the intelligence, CIA, same thing, building up at that point. And then we take out JFK, or they take out JFK, right? And so then the last item is MK Ultra, or excuse me, Mockingbird, where we got to take over the, intelligence got to take over the media.
MK Ultra was important too.
Yes, and all of that come together is kind of like the branches of evil, or the roots of evil that grew up to be this tree that's got to get cut out and rooted out.
Yep. But, the funny thing is, all of it sort of looks like a malignant AI, right? If a super intelligence of pure evil were to come to power and start doing stuff, it would look a lot like the people currently in charge. I think their solution to it is to outcompete it.
Right. The fear I have is maybe it's just like the topic today is the doctors who are trying to come up with these ideas and research a way of extending our lives. They're doing it for the right reasons, but they're going to get co-opted by big pharma. Well, just the same is AI is going to get corrupted, or already is. Maybe some of these people who are developing trying to build up society. But
there's open source AI out there too that's actually pretty goddamn amazing.
Yeah, and it's getting better.
Yeah. The good guys have a side in all the fights that is not a completely hopeless position.
Oh yes.
I don't know if y'all remember, there's a guy that he said that he created a car that ran on water.
Yeah.
Back, I think, in the 70s, and then his patent was stolen.
That reminds me of an interesting piece of news.
And then but it's coming back out. Like, people are starting to.
So a giant lithium discovery was made in the United States recently. This is news. And you know where it was?
Grand Canyon.
It was in the effluvium from fracking. Basically, the water that you inject using the hydraulic pressure was leaching minerals out of the tar sands, and the minerals leached out happened to be this massive discovery of lithium. The process of fracking, extracting the ability to make 60% yields off of this ore, or off of this liquid. When you extract it, it's basically like the biggest find in the world.
Yeah.
It makes
North Dakota,
the Chinese situation
that whole area up north, right?
Yeah,
that's great.
It may be a side effect of fracking altogether.
I don't know if that's been found in Texas.
About prices difference, like McDonald's, Taco Bell, that kind of stuff in the past 4 years, how it's went up dramatically.
Yeah,
I think if we looked at Bitcoin versus just the dollar.
Oh yeah,
so
that's
insane,
man.
How much, like, how many Big Macs could you get for 0.001 Bitcoin,
dude?
The pizza.
That's my theory, dude.
Versus
crypto is valued in dollars as an accurate measure of the real rate of inflation.
Yeah, there's the Big Mac, what is the index or whatever. And by the way, I was going to say, I think that these people who are doing the, this life-changing, the subject of today's show, those researchers will need to pay attention to what happened to Bitcoin. I do think that projects that have that are up against powers that be have to consider culture as their most important component. That if they don't maintain that culture, it will be co-opted for evil or for the wrong use, or to totally disable it. Right. It's super important for any project, and that's why they don't want kids to have an understanding of common culture or anything else. That's why they try to kill that. And by the way, this when a billionaire dies, who inherits their senators should be buried with him like a pharaoh. That should be the way that you want to be a senator. Sure.
Speaking of, take any of the. There's a military law that is coming up. So it's not a government. It's a military. It will be. You can get an Article 15 court-martialed for using the wrong pronoun.
Oh boy.
I think if the law is allowed
His new
into
speak.
the military that way, that makes it more common to where it's like it's a normal thing, then move into regular society. That's a scary thing.
Yeah, it is. Changing the subject real quick, Lisa, can you mentioned something about the House passing the major crypto legislation?
Yeah.
Fill us in on that, because I'm kind of watching it, but I looked at the article and it says a fiction point. It's blah 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 SEC, but I also said that it says that it's not the friction point. I'm sorry, but it also provides clarity for which tokens will be responsible of the U.S. Securities Exchange Commission on how such projects could attain regulated status with the agency. That's part of that bill, and that's kind of scary.
It is and it isn't, because to me, I've been so tired of watching Gary or whoever's in charge making up rules that we the people are supposed to be having our representatives, create laws that protect us or that are our voice or whatever. And so we've been asking Congress to do their job. Is that what they just did? Or did they just hand Gary a hammer? I don't know. But I haven't had time to read through it. I just saw the news kind of break this morning, so I wanted to share that article.
The law itself is highly favorable to the space in one sense, right? In that the projects that are going to come online and start building now will be able to choose the side that allows for full decentralization and will be able to be left alone while they create, right? What it pretends for the people who have already been trapped by all their mud, right? All the crap, all the uncertainty that they've used to exploit lawsuits against good projects. The effect is far from certain.
Let me put it a different way. If these people in power, I'm putting that in quotations, if they really are a mafia cartel regime, then anything that comes out of that regime, to me, is counterproductive to what we're trying to accomplish, or counterproductive to our freedoms. So yeah. I kind of think that, you're going to get the pluses and the minuses, and you hope that there's more pluses than minuses. But all in all, it's still going to probably add up to a big fat minus and a big fat negative towards our sovereignty. Crypto was created, again, I say it over and over, to eliminate the third parties. Third party is government. And my transaction in my project that I'm building, or your project that you're building, or the projects that we're supporting, or whatever, government doesn't need to be in the middle of that.
We lost our authority.
We used to need it, technologically speaking, and then blockchains were invented.
When we had our purse, we lost the purse strings back when they invented the Fed and they could just print money, so on. But our government lost the control of the purse strings when Bush, I think it was Bush, it was under Reagan, but I think it was him that did it, made it so that government NGOs could get money from both the Fed and the government. And since they're not government agencies, they don't have to show.
That was a tick in the ratchet for sure. But I think the source of that problem goes back to 1913.
Like the CIA especially, they basically said they set up this NGO, they get the money, and they can use that to fund black projects, and they don't have to report it.
That also coincided with the internationalization of the Bank Secrecy Act's approach to anti-money laundering, interestingly. And it was NGOs that they funded with that pushed the international spread of our broken model.
Did you know that there's two, and they're set up by the CIA?
Financial mass surveillance.
One of it's like the DNC, one of it's like the RNC, but there's like an extra letter in there. And they're both owned and created by the CIA. We always talk about the left wing and the right wing are both part of the same bird. Literally, this is like total proof. It's just out there. I forget what the acronyms are, but it's basically like the Republican Party, International Republican Party, and then it's like the International Democratic Coalition or something.
Hmm.
But those are both created by the CIA, and that's how they.
Yeah,
funded
there's.
it.
Well, I don't remember which organization it is. There's a literally an organ. It's a secret society, but what's known. They have this logo that's a turtle, and a wolf in sheep's clothing, right? And essentially, it's about slow action. It's like since 1913. It was before any of our parents were alive, and like my grandparents were, either babies or hadn't been born yet. And you think about that, it's 3 generations, and that they didn't have any power back then. So, and this stuff happened, and it was by someone else in some trader in Washington, and it still exists. And they keep ratcheting it up. Yeah, okay, we'll kill a senator. Okay, we'll kill a president. Okay, we'll destroy some buildings and make sure that you guys have to go to war. And there's our blood sacrifice again. Industrial black magic. Okay, so super state, the Intel super state, industrial black magic. All right, so let's just start the close out because we have 10 minutes less. What's going on this week, Lisa? Start with you.
I had a really great interview yesterday with my friend Skullcap Savant. He's in the chat right now, and he brought to my attention the DTCC changes that are coming this coming weekend, over the Memorial Day weekend. And actually, what's interesting about it to me is that Mexico and Canada don't celebrate Memorial Day, so their changes will implement on Monday, the 27th, to be the T+1 transactions for the clearinghouse. The U.S. will start on Tuesday, and Uncle Cliff always said it would happen on a Tuesday, so you would see the results from the Monday on the Tuesday. It'll also be really interesting to see because there's still they did not change the time for. There's we go again for the Friday. Or for currency. And so you could see possibly some big movements on Friday as they're preparing for this transition to happen on Monday and Tuesday.
Wow. All right.
Check
That's
out that
interesting
video.
stuff. I was like, does that
Amazing.
mean like a crash or something else happening or something crazy?
Maybe they have to shut Wall Street trading down,
I'm sure there'll be a solar
Chancellor
flare.
engaged in all kinds of chicanery with their new
between then and
authority.
now.
Yeah, because the
Some solar flare
arbitrage
activity and
opportunity is huge.
At least until they overturn. This is the key thing to remember here, right? They're going to overturn Chevron deference, and when Chevron deference is overturned, the interpretive authority of agencies will be a lot more hard or a lot more difficult to run without being challenged.
Greg, I'm going to have you on to explain the Chevron.
I want to know more about this because I don't understand enough about
Chevron deference is the doctrine that says when there's an ambiguous law, we go with the agency's interpretation by rule. We don't interpret it ourselves, say the courts.
Wow.
So it allows the agencies to assume that they're going to be not challenged where there's ambiguity.
Wow. Evil. That's evil. Hey, Sean, what's going on this week?
We got an interview with Joe Rotes tomorrow.
All right. Good deal. I was going
I might be good to have Greg on too, but so we're going to talk about a lot of crazy stuff. I have some other interviews that I've been trying to work on. I had my son was waiting for this package, and FedEx that came and it had to be signed for, and so he thought that was a package, and then his package came. It was delivered. So we're like, what is that package that has to be signed for? And I looked, and it was from Kosovo. So it was weird. I was like, well, why do I have this, FedEx from Kosovo? And it's a miner. It's not a person. It's a crypto miner. But I'm sure I'm on some list now. I got stuff coming from Russia, worst possible time. But so check out the interviews. Me and Lisa are on Tuesday. It's around usually 4 to 5. We do the show. That's it.
Excellent. All right. I am where I am.
Well, let's see. First of all, I enjoy the Truth Tuesdays that Sean and Lisa do on each of their
Thank
channels
you.
back to back. They're great. And Lisa and I have done 2 shows now on Monday. So I encourage you to check out her channel, and yours truly is on there. What's going on with me? Well, let's see. The Intel Super State weighs heavy on all of our shoulders, but there's a bright light, a silver lining, if you will. You can mine social media on Den.Social by evaluating posts, making quality posts, and other people vote it up, and you earn Matter, MTR. And congrats to, I'm going to be a number go up guy. Do your own research. I'm not your daddy, but congrats to Matter. It hit 12 cents this week, 12.8,
Nice.
13 cents
Wow.
from
That's pretty good, man.
1.1 penny 6 months ago. And I got a feeling, do your own research. But anyway, if you want to earn crypto, go to Matter, go to Den.Social and start posting. All it takes is an email.
Yep.
And I'll see you over there.
There is an unpricable turning point coming up. That's a very good point. Like if that legislation gets a signature, a lot of shit changes.
That's true. There's a lot of stuff that, I mean, we've been in dark areas for so long. It's like when positive stuff happens, it's like, well, I don't know if I believe it, right? But it's like it seems like things are. I think things are really moving.
That's why prices are awesome, because they tell
Yeah.
us the true
That's true.
current market value of
Okay.
optimism.
Greg, what's up this week?
For me this week, I am really focused in on a whole bunch of stuff that, God, I wish I could talk about, but I can't. So I will just say that decentralization of infrastructure is becoming a reality, and it will be much sooner than we think, in the same kind of way that aging is. And what it pretends is that there's no real way for men with guns to tell people to turn things off on the internet. And that's going to change a lot of stuff when people start using that as a development platform. So
that's true.
That's what I'm excited about this week.
Den is looking forward to that too. We really
I
want
think
that on Den.
just the fact that people are using the word decentralization. I think what's his name has been just like the biggest factor for that. Russell Brand, just talking about the evils of centralized power.
Yep.
And he's really got the message out there, and people are starting to see why it's important to have power much more decentralized.
It's that the word has even worked its way properly, which is surprising as hell, into the halls of Congress. I mean, you have like Ted Cruz has spoken about it. People actually talk, about the good aspects of some of this stuff when they're talking about, it's like, why is everything so horrible? They're like, well, you got to use people around
Johnson
stuff.
talked about it, but now I think
it's the least horrible it's ever been, though. That's also true.
One wacky thing, Dylan Mulvaney talked about it on Tuesday, went to Peru and did a post that
I shared the link in the private chat.
Machu Picchu, and they're like, I'm here in Peru, Machu Picchu, look, everyone's so kind here. I feel so safe. It's sad that I have to leave my own country to come to a country where I feel safe. And literally this week, Peru passed a law that all trans people are considered insane. And that if you're one sex and you think you're another,
Dylan also was paid by a candidate, I can't remember what state, to send a message and tell this other candidate, congratulations on, Chicago, I think, on your new job at or maybe it was DC, the DC.
It was a cameo. They went on, they went on Cameo and paid them to make it.
To celebrate their new job at the DC Zoo with rhinos.
Amazing how people will be illiberal for their own causes, and then liberal toward illiberal for their own societal ills that they want to target, and liberal for the ones that they want to approve of, without any scruple. It's
Joe, what's up with you?
For me, go to Dracaria World on Twitter X. The pinned post is the white paper, and I think there'll be an announcement today. I did a walkthrough on it on Super Happy Dragon Lucky, about 45-minute walkthrough of some major updates to the spawning model, and it's an algorithmic thing, and there's some really amazing stuff in there. So go check that out. And giving away the first gateway keys this week. So pay attention. Go get some gateway keys. It's the only way you'll be able to get a dragon egg.
50 seconds.
First season. Yes. All right.
Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best.
Adaptable, all capital, label radical yet rational. A tactical approach is palpable if this animal is fallible, but that conclusion is laughable. So with for all detachable from the mandible, you see it now.